It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of Event Icons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. So, you might be wondering, how do you get to ask questions? All you have to do is use the question panel on the right of GoToWebinar to submit your questions. Or you can hop on Twitter to submit your questions with the hashtag EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live through the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share hashtag EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is hashtag EventIcons with your hosts, Will Curran of Endless Events, Laura Lopez of Social Tables, and Brent Kruger of Event Technology Consulting.
Wow. I think that wins for the first time ever that we've had a live collaboration of the intro on the show. So that was awesome.
Hey, first and only. It will never be the same again.
It will never be the same again. Now we're gonna have like every guest is gonna be like, let me get a guitar, some drums, and like everything put together. So again, welcome everybody. Hashtag Event Icons. I'm your host, Will Curran. Brant is hanging out in the background, helping answer your questions on Twitter and also on Facebook, and also all the live questions that come into GoToWebinar. Laura is unfortunately out on events today, so you guys are stuck with me, I guess. But again, if you guys are interested in asking questions, use the right of GoToWebinar, Twitter, hashtag Event Icons, and also be sure to share us with all your friends, www.event-icons.com. We got to get as many people in here because we have an amazing guest in the house who I've actually known for quite a long time. We've never met face-to-face until, I guess, today via webcam. But we have known each other for quite a little bit. This story goes back to when Will ran a company called Arizona Pro DJs, and when this idea of social media was still, you know, should I invest in social media? Should I spend money? You know, it's just a trend, whatever it may be. And we won an award through an amazing, legendary blog called socialmediaexaminer.com. We won top 10 Facebooks. Basically, we were in the top 5 for basically Facebook pages for small businesses. And a man by the name of Phil Mershon edited that column and published it, and got Will super excited because he was only a sophomore in college, and got featured first time in, you know, big national publication like Social Media Examiner. Fast forward to today, we have Phil in the house, and Phil's actually going to talk about an amazing event that socialmediaexaminer.com has created called Social Media Marketing World, which is now the #1 social media conference, rivals some of the biggest marketing conferences in the entire world, and they run it right in San Diego. I mean, just amazing conference, does some really cool, unique things. We knew we had to get Phil on air, and we're just so excited to have you in the house, Mr. Phil Mershon, socialmediaexaminer.com, and Social Media Marketing World.
Hey, thanks for having me, Will. It's exciting to actually meet you after all these years, and glad to share with your audience.
Awesome, awesome. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into what is Social Media Marketing World, but I think it's really interesting. I would love to hear the story of how you got in the events industry, because you were kind of like the accidental event person that kind of just fell into it a little bit. But then now we run one of the biggest events in the whole country. Can you talk a little bit about what got you in the events industry and how you kind of went from being part of Social Media Examiner on the editorial team to running this massive event?
So really what you want me to share is the career path. How do you become an event planner?
Yeah,
so
basically. Tell everyone your secrets.
Don't follow the path that I followed, but it's actually not as much an accident as it might appear. So my first job out of college, I worked for Boeing programming computers, and after about 6 months discovered their quality control program, or total quality control, and that was a facilitator role. And I was like, that's what I want to do. If I could be that guy someday, that's what I want to do. My next job, I was speaking in conferences, and then a few years later I was traveling all over the country speaking on college campuses, and then I got hired along the way by Koch Industries, David and Charles Koch, and I was basically a consultant, a training consultant. So I was organizing events internally for about 3 years, but when I got hired by Social Media Examiner back in 2010, I had spent between Koch Industries and that about 12 years in the nonprofit church world. I was planning worship services every single weekend. I've got about 20 years of experience of doing that. So I would say I've actually done a lot of events, just not 3,000 person events where you're spending hundreds of $1,000s on AV and all the logistics that go into one of the kind of events that we're doing. But in 2010, I was without a job. Mike Stelzner had just started Social Media Examiner. He knew me, and he said, I think this guy has something that I want to invest in. And slowly we discovered that I had an aptitude for online events, which is where you met me, through our online events. And then eventually when we started a physical conference, I took things that I knew, and I've learned a ton. You know, I do have an accidental course. I've got degrees in economics and counseling and music and in divinity, all of which are great preparation, but not the normal way to get into what I'm doing. So the short answer is I was in the right place at the right time with someone who believed in me. And then, you know, I'm a Swiss Army knife, so I'm able to adapt and learn a lot of things pretty quickly, and figured stuff out. And together with a team, we've built a great conference that I'm proud of.
Wow, amazing. And so, I mean, you have so many skills, and saxophoning, or playing the saxophone, I should say, is one of them. My question, though, is with all the skills that you have, if you weren't in the events industry now, what would you be doing instead?
You know, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so I'm a catalyst. I like starting things. I like starting organizations. I like starting events. So I'd be starting something somewhere. I couldn't tell you all of what it is. I've got some ideas. I've got, you know, a long list of different projects, but I'd be somewhere starting something that's interesting. So, you know, with that said, who knows? You know, someday I might be doing something different, but it would be ideas, it would be starting something, it would be something novel. There would be a lot of complexity to it and newness.
So I'm curious to know, so like, you know, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times they kind of put us into two buckets, right? You're either like visionary or you're the kind of execution guy. What would you say is your kind of bucket that you would fall into?
Definitely more visionary than execution. You know, there's another model for management of ideas. You're good at managing ideas, people, or things. It's a Harvard business study that was done probably 20, 30 years ago. And of those three things, I'm best with ideas, and then second with people, and third with things. And yet, what do you do as event planning? There's a lot of managing of things. So thankfully, after a couple of years, I've been able to hire people to manage the things that I'm not good at managing, because I'm pretty good at fouling those things up.
Amazing. How big is your team now?
It depends on how you want to count. I have one full-time employee, but I've got about 9 contractors that work with me throughout the year. And then during the conference, between staff and volunteers, we had 175 people helping to run a 3,100 person conference last year.
Amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I mean, I know we're going to jump into like the history of the conference and kind of got started really shortly, but I mean, it just that big of a team. So everyone can kind of know, I guess, based on that core team that's working kind of year round on the conference, what are the kind of roles that those people are filling? Like, what is kind of the structure of your team?
Well, I've got a full-time operations manager, so she really does manage the things for me. That's her deal. She's a process person. She's going to be a CMP probably by next year, but she's got 10 years of events industry experience as a planner. I've got people that are managing speakers, because speakers are a big part of our event. We had 200 speakers at the event last year, so I've got a couple people that's really their job throughout the year. I've got an executive assistant who tries to keep me on path.
Tries is the key term.
She's virtual, so she doesn't know really what I'm doing all the time. She's probably watching right now, laughing to herself. I've got people who are handling customer service and just some of the registration logistics. And then we've got a company that we've hired who's an event planning company, so they handle a lot of our on-site logistics, and we have an AV company that we work with. So there's a lot of vendors who do some of the significant tasks for us. I've got someone who manages sponsors. We have a sales team that's separate from me, but once we sell to someone and they're on board, I've got a guy on the team who he handles all the logistics for them once they're on board. The marketing team is not under my direction, but they obviously worked closely with us on getting the word out and selling tickets. So if you count everyone who's related to the event, the team's actually got a lot bigger, but they're not my team.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like it takes a village, right, for you guys. And I think what's interesting is that you guys have the kind of the media arm that helps, support things like the marketing, like you're saying, the sales of the sponsorships, everything like that, and then the event team. But you have to work together as two separate organizations, kind of coming together as well.
Yeah, as a media company that puts on events, it's a bit more complex maybe than companies that only put on events or only our media. We work really closely with one another through cross-departmental things. We've got a social team, a marketing team, an operations team, and an editorial team that all of us have to work together to, a great degree or lesser degree to support one another. And so communication is critical.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to kind of like do a little bit of a rewind and kind of go back to the beginning because I think origin stories are really fun, and I think that people really want to know how this all started. How did you go from this online events to doing this massive conference now? So can you talk a little bit about the history of social media marketing world and why you guys decided to go physical and kind of that transition you made from the online stuff, what you did before, and how it kind of grew to what it is now?
So Social Media Examiner started in 2009 as a blog, in October 2009, as an idea that Mike Stelzner had of, he said, I've got some ability to write great content, practical how-tos, and he didn't see anyone else doing it in quite the way he envisioned. So he started it, and it quickly grew. He frankly thought it was going to be a 2 or 3 year experiment, and then he'd move on to his next entrepreneurial endeavor. He was surprised by the way the audience grew. The way we funded the business in those first several years was through our online events, which is where you got to know us, Will. But it was in about 2012, Mike went to a conference called Content Marketing World, which one of our friends, Joe Polizzi, was running. And Mike went to that and said, I want to do that. We'd been to Blog World, some of these other conferences, and thought that's not for us. We're happy doing online events. Online events are, a lot easier to run. Let's be honest. You don't have to pay massive amounts of money for people like you, Will, and there's and the margins are better, in online events if you do them right. And so, why would we get out of that business? The reason was through our social media, we found there's all these people that were meeting each other online that wanted to meet each other in person, and we felt like there really wasn't a conference that was exclusively focused on social media, and we felt like we wanted, if nothing else, we wanted to bring our audience together. That was truthfully where the impulse started. We've got this massive audience. At that point, I want to say 100,000 people subscribing to our email list. I don't remember the exact numbers. I'd have to go back and look. We've got 600,000 today, and 500,000, I think, Facebook followers and so forth. But back then, it was a lot smaller. But we said these people still, they want to meet each other. They don't want to just have a virtual relationship with one another. Video like what we're doing right now was much more rudimentary. It wasn't very reliable. And so you didn't see each other's faces. You didn't have the chance for, even this much connection, let alone the connection that can happen when you press flush. So 2012, he went to that event, said, Phil, I want to do that next year. That might have been 2011, because I don't think we went from September 2012. Yeah, he did that in 2011. He called me and said, I think this is what I want to do. And we began making plans. And by the spring of 2013, we had our first conference, which had about 1,100 people attend that year, which is testament to our audience and how much they wanted to see each other and the trust they had and the quality
Absolutely.
of what we put together.
And was that just in? Where was that? It was still in San Diego, correct? And I think it was like at the Grand Hyatt.
We did the first year at the Marriott Marquis.
That's right.
In 2013, the next 2 years we were at the Grand Hyatt next door, and then in 2016 and 17 we've been at the Convention Center.
Awesome.
With about 3,000, 2,900 in 16 and 3,100 in 17, and we're looking for some pretty massive growth into 2018 and beyond with some things that we're introducing, et cetera.
Wow. What do you think the biggest reason why you guys grew so fast? I mean, like when people hear about how fast you have grown and how I think also how legendary your conference has grown. Because I mean, like, everybody talks about it as it's getting closer. You know, all the influencers are there. You guys get the best speakers. You know, what do you think has been the biggest secret, I guess, to your guys' success and fast growth?
Our vision statement says, I'll read it for you. All that we serve is quality, and we serve all with excellence. So we're very focused on quality in every single thing we do. If an article to our website doesn't meet our quality standards, it either goes back for rewrite or it gets thrown away and it doesn't get published. I mean, we've literally gone on and had something that was in the queue to be published, and one of our editors goes in and says, this just isn't up to snuff. It's out the window. So quality is one thing. You know, that's been our standard with the articles for, you know, all 7, 8 years, whatever that is, that we've been around. I guess 8 years this October. And then secondly, I would say the quality of our relationships with these speakers. So we've been building relationships through the online events that we used to do. We used to do 3 or 4 online events a year. Once we started doing the physical conference, we moved to doing 1 online event per year, and this is the first year we're not doing an online event because we started a membership site called the Social Media Marketing Society, which provides training all year long in a virtual community, and we feel like that's a better way to deliver quality to people in the online world who are looking for a cheaper option for learning and maybe don't want to travel, or they want that in supplement to the conference. So I'd say that the relationships we've built with the speakers is another essential element, and we've always had the mindset that we're going to provide the greatest, latest, greatest tactical knowledge to our community. I'd say another element of our success, though, is that people subscribe to us and follow us not because of our conference, but because we're providing excellent quality content every single day, whether it's through articles, through the podcast, through the live show that we do on Friday, where we're providing up-to-the-date you know, tips on what's going on in the industry, what's changed with Instagram or Facebook or whatever, giving insights into those things. So people trust us.
Yeah.
So there's a high level of trust that, you know, we aren't going to do something that's shoddy. And then we've held ourselves to a high standard. You know, we really do ask ourselves, is this something quality that we're going to be happy that we put out? And sometimes we challenge ourselves, are you sure that's ready? Are you sure that's ready to go out? And, you know, we make mistakes. We're like anybody. But I think that's been a big part of it, is our commitment to quality, our commitment to relationships, and really trying to esteem the people who are leaders in the industry, giving them a great platform that they want. They want to come back. You know, they're the ones who say, this is now family camp. This is the reunion. We want to be back there because these are my peeps. You know, there's a lot of other conferences where they go to, but they like ours because it's become kind of the de facto industry event for social media marketers, and that's certainly what we were hoping it would become, but there was no promise that it would be that, and there's obviously the constant pressure that we maintain that, and so it's a commitment to excellent quality, and then, you know, the experiences that we create. We try to be very cognizant of what do people want to learn, and then they've come not just to learn, but they've come to network. So we put a lot of emphasis on networking at the event in a professional sense, not the dating sense. So it's not just about, you know, cool lights and bells at night, but it's about everywhere you go, there's a chance to meet people, and we try as much as we can to facilitate meaningful connections with the kinds of people that you came to meet, because we know that you could have learned this stuff online, right? I mean, pretty much everything that is shared at our event, you could, if you worked hard enough, you could find it online. So the added advantage of coming to a conference is, well, I want the conversations with people who are doing business the way that I'm doing it, so that we can kind of, you know, open our notebooks, share notes, have conversations about real things that we're dealing with, and hopefully become a support to each other, not just at the conference, but throughout the year.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. I mean, I think there's a lot of learnings, I think, from your answer to that question. First of all, I think that you know, all these days people ask, how can inbound marketing and, like, you know, content marketing drive more butts and seats? And you guys proved it by first being a media company that with a blog and building the subscriber base. And then when you said, hey, we're going to have an event, those people naturally trusted you and said, I want to go to that event because I love what you're doing. So I think that's just like a fantastic way that people can see, like, yeah, it's a long-term strategy. It took you guys, years to build the amazing presence you had on the blog, but now it's supporting you in building this offline community as well. The second thing I think that's very, very interesting that I'm definitely I want to ask questions about is that I think that you talk about the relationship with your speakers. And for those who don't know, Social Media Examiner has an amazing podcast. For a while, you guys, I believe, had 2 podcasts as well, one tactical, one more strategy, or still do. I have to, like, all the content you guys produce, I try to stay on top of all of it, and it's just so much good stuff. It's almost impossible to stay on top of. But
I don't, so work together.
So I'm curious to know, how much does, for example, Michael actually has on the industry influencers, the big people, the people who you guys are eventually probably going to be your speakers at your event. Does that help support you as an event? Because A, someone's been on the podcast, they have a relationship with Social Media Examiner. Now you say, hey, by the way, do you want to come speak at our conference too?
Hearing you.
Oh, yes, I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me? I can hear you. All right. Well, technical difficulties for sure. Let's see here. I can't hear you now. I might. We gotta love technical difficulties as we do here, especially as I ask like a really good question too. Yeah, it says right now that we're both good, but that we can't hear you, Phil. So maybe test your mic real quick and see if we can get you online. Nothing. Oh, gotta love it, technology. This is why we do a live show, is because we love the stress of having to figure out the technical issues on the fly. Let's see. Let's see if
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. My internet must have cut out there for a minute.
Oh, it's all good.
I heard your question about the podcast and the role
Yeah.
it has with our speakers. So yeah, it's a very important element for us in a number of facets. One is it gives exposure to our audience of people who are going to speak at the event. So we're very intentional about bringing some of our speakers on who we feel have a new message, that's relevant to anyone who's listening, because the podcast gets 40,000 listeners sometimes. So obviously we're not going to get 40,000 people to the conference, or at least we're not anytime soon. That's a lot of people to come. We'd be happy for 10% to come, to be really honest. So, but it's giving exposure to the people who are already committed to come, but it's also a chance for us to get to know people who might speak for us someday, whether it's at next year's event or to our Social Media Marketing Society members or some other place, that we might want to have them come, like our Friday show that we do. So the podcast is a great vetting tool for us, and a chance for us to see who does our audience respond to. If they really like somebody, then that's a great place for us. So, like you're doing, I suppose if you were ever to put on an event for event industry professionals, this would have been a great tool for you to figure out who do you want to get to come speak.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I love that idea of the testing ground for speakers, because I think that's one really tough thing when you're doing a conference, and let's say you've been doing it for 10 years. It's like, who do I bring back that's fresh and new? And a lot of times all you have to base off of is if you saw them at an event, or maybe you got to see some videos of them. But then this really, like you said, puts them right in front of your actual audience and says, hey, who's going to get the most amount of eyeballs, who's going to get the most amount of like reshares and all that sort of stuff. So love that. That's so good. By the way, the audience is going crazy for you. Megan Powers is in the house, says that Social Media Marketing World, and this is a great testimonial, is the best conference I attend, even better than event industry conferences. So for all of our event industry people out there, Social Media Marketing World, great conference to attend, obviously. So shout out to Megan Powers.
That's high praise from Megan, because I know she knows what she's talking about. She's helped us behind the scenes, but I met her first, even though she'd been to our event. We really had a first conversation at an events industry event, and she told me how great our event was at that point. So
amazing.
She's helped us. She's helped us make it great. I would say that's actually another thing that's made us successful. If you want to go back to that question, that is the volunteer army that we have. So I went to VidCon a couple weeks ago, which is a large video conference for YouTubers, and they have a good volunteer base there of people who are just fanatical about YouTube and just want to be there. But for the most part, they're young. You know, nothing against being young, Will, but they're more your contemporaries than mine.
No,
The
totally.
difference with our event is that the volunteers are like Megan, that they're people who are in the industry, they want to serve, they want to be behind the industry, they might not be able to afford to come on the ticket price, or they might just say, you know what, I've been before and I want to help others. I want to be part of this. I want to be part of this community. And I would say our volunteers have been a significant part of why our event is great. In fact, for some people, that's the only exposure to us they have. They don't know the difference between volunteers and staff because we blur that line so much that they really have to study our name badges to figure out, oh, you actually work for Social Media Examiner versus just having a staff shirt. So I
I
would
love
say
it.
that's something we put a lot of effort into, and we learned certainly from Disney and others about the importance of your public-facing staff and the experience that they can create.
Absolutely. And they become evangelists for you too. So then they leave, they're tweeting like crazy, they're showing pictures, and they're showing it to their peers saying why they need to come, right? And they're becoming those evangelists to get more people to buy more tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not hard to get a social media crowd to share your event online. You know, I've been to Cisco and some other events where you've got more engineers and you might have 1 out of 10 people who are tweeting. Well, we've got probably 10 out of 10 people who
Wow.
are sharing the event. I think we had 70,000 tweets that went out during the 3 days of the conference last year with over, I don't remember how many billions of impressions that created. And those stats are obviously not terribly meaningful, but still, it's, you know, 70,000 tweets is a lot of tweets
A lot of
that
tweets.
went out.
I mean, with that much social media happening at an event, right? Like most people are just trying to get more social media, but what happens when you get to that point where the vol handle all the communication?
Unfortunately, you didn't get all of your question. You want me to call in?
Oh no, you're okay. I think you're okay. I think it just kind of hiccup there. I'm roboting out, everyone says. Well, I am now a robot. Hopefully that's a little bit better.
Oh, so it's happening to you as well?
Everyone's saying that they can hear that's happening. So I hear
Okay.
you fine. Like you wrote
Okay.
out for a second. No, worse.
I think I shall become a robot because that's what I'm hearing right now.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not getting your questions, bro.
It is probably on my end with the internet. Can you hear me? Okay? You can't hear me okay now, or you can't hear me now. Oh my
I
gosh.
hear you speaking, but I don't hear clarity of words.
Interesting. So really quickly, let me try to remove this real quick.
Do you want to try to go without webcam and see if that reduces the bandwidth?
Let me see if I can get back on. Does that make it a little bit better?
It's still kind of robotic.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Well, Brand, do you mind hopping on real quick and kicking off that question for me? So everyone's saying in the chat right now that everyone should hop on and help me lip sync. I'm gonna try hopping back on and backing off and see if that helps. If Brand is able to answer.
But you guys are hearing me just fine. Maybe
Yeah, I
text
can hear you
me in
perfectly
the
fine.
chat box if you guys are hearing me okay. I'm happy to answer questions, but I have no idea what you were just asking because I got lost in the robotic world.
It's
So
okay. It's all good. Everyone's saying that you're awesome. Can you hear me okay now?
it's definitely better. Yeah.
Okay, let's see if that does it. Let's try to do this too. Uh, there we go. That might help a little bit as well. So my question, I guess, for you was, oh my gosh, I have to remember what the exact question was. At this point, I've completely forgotten what the question was. So I'll
Okay.
jump in. So
Alex summarized here. Now I remember. How do we
yes.
manage such a large amount of social media engagement? So we've got a team that is sitting kind of behind the scenes. There's 5 people that are taking turns monitoring all the engagement and deciding, okay, on Instagram, which of these photos are we going to share out to a stream that we show during during our keynotes? So we facilitate or curate, I should say, a stream of photos. So they're monitoring the hashtag as far as that goes. They're obviously monitoring any tags on Social Media Examiner. They're spending time retweeting things that they think are valuable. They're also monitoring Twitter. We've got a, and to a lesser degree on our Facebook event page and our LinkedIn group. We do a private LinkedIn group, and we do a public-facing Facebook event page, and then we've got the hashtags on both Twitter and Instagram. And so they're monitoring those throughout the conference. And we have a special hashtag if someone has a question, so that we can quickly provide customer service solutions. But then we're also just looking for great tweets and trying to promote those things during the event. And I'm not hearing you at all anymore, Will.
Well, that was because I was muted for sure. But can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Much better?
Yes.
Okay. Apparently my internet just said I need a tea break, so it took a tea break for a second.
Fair enough.
I think the managing the social media, I mean, it's always blown my mind, like how you guys are able to do that with that much stuff going on. So I think people being able to hear how to structure that as their team, maybe they don't have that big of a team or that many tools available, but they at least can create a scaled down version of that for their management of their social media.
Tools are critical. We use something called Agora Pulse that helps us look for all those mentions, and then they're using things like Hootsuite to watch for the hashtag. So I think tools are your friend. You can't do it on the native app. It's impossible with the volume that's going on.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine trying to manage 70,000 tweets inside the default Twitter app. That'd be absolutely crazy. So I think for people who haven't been to the conference, obviously we have a lot of people watching right now who have been to the conference. What does the content look like? Like, what does the normal schedule look like of the event, and what can kind of people expect when they're coming to attend the event?
We are essentially a 3-day event now. We call it a 2.5-day event. So this year's event in 2017 and 18 are both a Wednesday through Friday pattern. So on Wednesday, starting at noon, we have workshops. We'll have 3 sessions of 90-minute workshops that are much more focused on business-related things, everywhere from how do I become a better speaker, or how do I get ready to go live on camera, or how do I do better SEO on my website, those kinds of things, or how do I run an agency. So they're not social media specific, but they're things that anyone running a business or in the marketing business needs to understand as professional development. And then we have a party on Wednesday night, and then Thursday and Friday we kick off each day with a keynote. We'll have 5 session blocks, track sessions or breakout sessions, depending on what you want to call them. Those are 45-minute sessions with some significant networking breaks in the morning and at lunch, and then we close each day with a keynote address where everybody comes together. And we'll have 12 concurrent track sessions on both Thursday and Friday, and we'll have 7 concurrent workshops in the 3 time slots on Wednesday.
Wow. And I've heard, I mean, can you talk a little bit? I've heard a lot about this opening night party. That's apparently, it's crazy and awesome in every single way. Can you tell everyone a little bit about the party and kind of what makes it special and what you try to hope for when you're planning this opening night party?
Well, there's very few places that you can go that can handle weather issues in February, March, April, which can happen in San Diego. You think of San Diego and it's beautiful all the time, and it can be, but out of 5 years, we've had rain or rain threats 2 out of the 5 years because of the time of year that we're doing it. So the USS Midway is where it's an aircraft carrier that's been retired, I think in 2004, and now it's a museum. So it's one of the few places that you can go that can actually host as many people as we have. It can handle 1,500 people inside if the weather's inclement, and you can get up to 3,000 or 4,000 people if weather allows people to go onto the upstairs flight deck that you've possibly seen if you're a basketball fan, because the NCAA always does a game on there every year, among other things. So we do it there. The first year we did it at a natural history museum, but we outgrew that after the first year. So we do it there. The event, the venue itself makes the party. I mean, if you've never been on an aircraft carrier, it's a stunning experience. People love going on the tours. There's docents who are the the retired military men who, some of whom actually worked on that ship or on aircraft carriers just like it. Some of them are pilots, others had other roles, and they'll take people on tours and tell stories, which that's kind of fun. But they've also got simulators on there. You can tour and go through some of the planes and helicopters that are there. But the wow factor is you walk into this ship, it's huge. The second wow factor, or maybe the first, depending on who you are, is you walk in and you see these people that you've looked up to online. You walk in the room and you see someone like Mari Smith or Guy Kawasaki, who are two, heroes, legends, thought leaders, whatever you want to call them, in the social media marketing space, and they're standing there right with everybody else having conversations. And so you walk in and you see all these people that you've seen their faces, on Facebook or Twitter or wherever. Now you walk in and they're there, and you can have conversations. And then we do things to just facilitate that networking. We have a band that's playing. This last year we had a DJ, so you'll be happy about that. There's some things like that, and there's of course great food. Anything to keep people there engaging with each other. But it's not a hard party to plan. It's not a cheap party to plan, but it's not a hard party to plan because we know people are motivated to want to be with each other. We do a lot of things to help them make some great connections while they're there, because I think when you come to an event, if you can make a friend pretty quickly, that's going to make the rest of the event a whole lot better. If you're feeling relaxed, like, okay, these are my people, I know someone I can look for tomorrow morning when I go to that keynote, and you can start making plans, that's going to make you a lot more secure and relaxed to be able to learn. Because I think if you're stressed and feeling like you're isolated and you don't know anybody, you're not as likely to get as much out of an event. So that party, in my mind, is a critical piece. Not everyone makes it. People are flying from around the world or the East Coast, and they don't make it in time for the opening night party. Or some people like, well, you've done it for 4 years. What's there going to be new? And my encouragement is, hey, there's new people. And the party's really not about the venue. It's about the people that you're coming to be with. Now, we have a second night party where we do go for kind of the wow factors on creating a different party experience. So like this year, we had a live band karaoke inside of a nightclub, and we had all kinds of cool experiences, because I'm all about having, create your own adventure type of things going on at parties, where if one room's not for you, there's another room that might be, or you have the chance to kind of roam around and find the things that are there and see what fits for you. Because I think, with 3,000 people, there's no way you're going to have everyone liking the same food, same drink, same music, same experiences, right?
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I think one of the coolest things that you guys do that I haven't seen in quite many conferences is the speakers really mingling with the attendees, especially the ones that, like you say, are like legends and kind of like your keynote speakers, basically. A lot of times when you go to these conferences, you might have Gary Vaynerchuk come, but you never get to actually talk to Gary Vaynerchuk unless he sticks around the stage afterwards or whatnot. But like your guys' speakers are all right there, and if let's say they saw him speak last year, they can go ask him questions, and that also creates like a really memorable experience, like a VIP experience that gets them to come back too.
Yeah, and we don't charge extra for VIPs. Everybody has equal access, and we actually intentionally don't have a green room for speakers where they can go just disappear and mingle with each other.
Interesting.
There's a prep room where they can go if they need to work on their presentation, but there's not a room that's just a lounge with their own set of coffee and snacks and whatnot, because we have the expectation that if a speaker comes to our event, we want them to come, and we want them to invest in the relationships, because these are their people, these are their followers, this is their tribe, and they're connecting with each other. Sure, we have a speaker party that's just for them where they can do that, and you'll see them meeting with each other throughout the event, but they've got a commitment. They understand how important it is for them to connect with their audience face to face, because that can lead to business, that can lead to authority, that can lead to new opportunities. They come with that mindset of looking for the serendipitous moment. That's something I preach a lot, is watch for serendipity and be ready when it comes, and our speakers are looking for it too. Mari Smith, I mentioned her name, she found her husband
Oh, wow.
at one of our events. So she's a classic example of someone who was looking for serendipity and found it.
Wow, amazing. I had never heard that story before. That's absolutely amazing. Wow. So you got to watch out. If you're going to social media marketing world, be ready to meet your future partner, your husband, wife, whoever it may be.
I would not want to say that. That just happened to happen. But what I have seen happen is people found their future business partner. So they've started a venture together, or someone who, people start masterminds regularly, where they say, okay, these 5 people I'm going to stay in touch with, and we're going to actually hold each other accountable in our business. People find new employment. I mean, I think the number of marriage stories is small compared to the number of business stories. Certainly that happens. I don't think she expected it to happen when she came, and it was just kind of one of those cool, wow, wasn't looking for that, but it's a great story.
Absolutely. We got a great question from the audience. You talked a little bit about the tools that you guys use to manage your social media, but I think people also want to hear about the tools in general you're using to plan the event and the technologies that you're using. What sort of event technologies are you guys using every single year? And more importantly, kind of twist that question as well as how are you guys using data to improve the future conferences you're doing every single year, every social media marketing world? How are you improving with that data?
So it's a great question. We have been fairly old school in terms of the tools that we use. We use Google Sheets for a lot of things. We're looking this year to probably make an investment in some technology for how we manage our speakers and sponsors, because we're getting to a size where Google Sheets become a little bit cumbersome to keep them maintained and speaking well to the website and the mobile app. There's a lot of manual entering of things that happens right now just because of how that's set up. So I'm not thrilled with how that's working. We haven't had any major snafus because we've got a lot of very conscientious, detail-oriented people backing me up, because I mess those things up regularly, so they keep me in line. We do use Trello. So I'd say project management wise, that is like a super important tool. We've tried Asana and Basecamp, but Trello has been one because there's a number of us who are more creative and we like the way it's visual in its presentation. So Trello is a big deal for us in terms of just keeping on top of our timelines, remembering how we did things last year. As far as data, the most important source of data is just the surveys that we do. We do a wide variety of surveys on specific sessions as well as general surveys. We'll ask questions of subsets of people along the way. We look at that data. Certainly we look at the Google Analytics to figure out, last year we had, we had like 5 or 6 different pages you could go to get information as an attendee about facets of the event. And we studied the data to see where did people go, and we realized, these 3 pages weren't getting the kind of traffic you would expect they would get. They weren't clicking on the main attendee information page to go to those, and so that's leading us to a total redesign of the experience of how we provide data to our attendees. Because as you can imagine, as an event grows, there's a lot more things going on. We want to make sure people know what's going on, but they don't necessarily consume the information that makes sense in a way that makes sense to us. So we're trying to revisit how that's laid out to make sure that they can find the things they want very quickly within a click or two. They can get to what they might be asking or thinking about. So data's with Google Analytics has driven us to realize, okay, we've got a problem here. We need to fix that. We need to make it more obvious. But the surveys tell us a ton. We invite or don't invite speakers back based on the reviews they got. We'll go and provide a human interpretation. Like if someone got a negative review, but they didn't necessarily get a ton of responses, I'll have somebody go watch it and provide a personal opinion. Do they agree with it or not agree with that assessment? But we take that very seriously. If someone got negative reviews, we're likely either not to bring them back, or we're going to have a coaching call. Say, look, this is the feedback you got. What do you think? Is that something you can fix? Do we think they can fix it? If not, they may or may not come back. I believe in second chances. I've given people second chances, and they've proven themselves. But at the same time, we are trying to provide a quality event.
Absolutely, absolutely. You talked a little bit about surveys, and obviously surveys are really important to you. Do you have like a favorite survey question that you absolutely love getting the response to?
What else do you want to tell me? Just kind of that open-ended. question, because that's when people will tell you what they really think. You can ask the questions that you want, but they've always got an opinion. Sometimes they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear, but when you ask something pretty open-ended like that, and I think the other question that I ask that is important, I don't know if other event planners do this, but we say, may we follow up with you to understand your answers better, and if so, please provide your email. And we're going to actually create some focus groups this year from people who said yes. They raised their hand and said yes, I'd love to share more. In the past, I've actually scheduled calls with 40 or 50 attendees who've been back multiple times and just got on the phone and said, what'd you like? What do we need to improve? What's going to get you to come back? But this year, we're going to do it a little bit more in a focus group kind of environment around different things that they're passionate about. Because we want to create that even greater sense of community, that this is not just my event or Social Media Examiner's event, but this is our event.
I love it. I love it. Make it feel like they're part of a big movement together too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes Comic-Con successful. And I think if you've got a crowd who feels invested, it's not just a purchasing decision every year, do I go or not go, but they say, well, this is my event, and I want to make sure it's great for me, but it's also great for my peers. Because, if they're coming from London or the East Coast, you're spending $3,000 to $5,000. By the time you get a flight, you get a hotel room, you pay for your food, you pay for your conference ticket. It's not a small investment. And so we want to make sure it's a great value for them. They're getting out of it what they came for. So we can assure that a little bit more if we get them to tell us what's important. Because I don't understand what your needs are versus Tim from London versus, Sally from Boston or whatever.
I love it. So we only have a little bit of time left. So this next question is coming from Twitter. I don't have the username for who it came from, but what is one thing you must do for what's one thing you must do for social media at an event? And maybe if you want to keep it to like one tip, because I know you probably could go on forever with tons of things people should be doing. But what's like your one tip for social media specifically that you would have for planners at their events?
I will tell you the favorite thing that I've seen us do is curate Instagram photos on the hashtag, because people love seeing their photos show up on big screens. I forget the name of the tool that does it. If you want to follow up with me later, I'll get it for you, but it's something native.
We'll post it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Cool. So we got a couple questions left for the rest of the show. So I think everyone's really excited to know, what are you excited for next year's Social Media Marketing World?
Certainly our second night party is something I really look forward to. I've got something I can't announce, but if it happens, is going to be epic.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's some things going on in the industry that give us opportunities to do something that we've never done, that if we can pull it off is really going to make the event a much stronger event. One thing though that's cool is, if you've been to the San Diego Convention Center, they've got this cool area under tents called Sales Pavilion. That's 90,000 square feet of event space. It's just a concrete slab under tents. And we are using that this year as our networking plaza. So that's where all of our sponsors will be. That's where our tables will primarily be for networking and eating. And so that's going to be a very cool space for just connections at the conference. And so I think that's going to be pretty exciting what we can do with that.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. I think everyone will be really excited to see as you guys kind of grow into the convention center, and hopefully we'll get you to the San Diego Comic-Con size eventually as well.
Actually, the city of San Diego thinks we will do that someday.
Awesome.
We'll see.
Social
media is here to stay, so that you never know.
I think I am a firm believer. I think you guys can do it. Awesome. So my last two questions that I always ask all of our people who come on to our amazing show is, what is one tip, if you had to pick like one tip to give event planners who are all listening today, if you had to pick one tip to give them, what would be your one tip for all event planners out there?
Make sure you understand what your customers are looking for and serve that as opposed to what you think is a great idea. I think it's really easy as an event planner to plan an event that you want to go to, I personally am not the target audience for social media marketing world. I'm not a social media marketer. I'm a creative, I'm an event guy, I do lots of things, but I'm not a marketer. So taking off your personal hat and really studying the data and asking people for their input and getting to know that, and then make sure you take it into account. Don't just ask their opinion, but then say, okay, what am I going to do that satisfies that? And I'm not talking about trying to please everyone, you can't, but really using that insight and information to make changes that you know is going to help people feel more connected, more satisfied that they made a good decision to come to your event.
Awesome. I love it. I think we could all do a little bit more listening than talking sometimes. Wow. All right, cool. So on to my favorite question ever, and it's always our last question as well. Do you have any cool resources, websites, blogs, books, anything at all that you want to share with everybody that you want to, like cool resources that you want to share with the audience?
So definitely check out Trello. That's something that I would strongly encourage you to do. There's a guy that I just spent an hour with earlier today, and if you have a chance to find someone like him, I think it could be amazing. This guy's name is Duncan Wartell. I'll go ahead and share his name because some of you might want to hire him to come speak at your event. But he was the former VP of Innovation for Disney, and prior to that, he was doing PR for Disney for 25 years. What I love about talking to him, and you can find someone else if it's not him, because he's obviously only one person, but he's an idea generator. And what he does is he helps you get out of the river of thought that we get stuck in. You know, if you've been doing an event for several years, you're kind of used to doing things a certain way. And as much as we all think we're creative and we, you know, can plan great events, we do get stuck. We get into default mode. And so you need someone to bring you out of that. You need tools, you need people to bring you outside of that. So that's not a specific resource as much as it is find those people that can catalyze you to get outside of yourself.
Awesome. Wow. I think a lot of times too, yeah, like you said, you get stuck in your own thoughts, and I mean like me even, like I consider myself more of like a, you said, like a people manager versus the manager of things versus manager of ideas. I'm definitely the people person. But so when I come into ideas, like yeah, like I can sometimes create, but then you get me in a session where I'm working with someone and whiteboarding like crazy, and before you know it, you have 14 million business ideas and you don't know what to do with them. So I definitely can agree with that advice. Phil, where is the best place if someone's really interested? They've listened to this, they go, oh my gosh, I'm really into social media. I want to attend Social Media Marketing World. Where do people go to, buy tickets, to learn more about the conference? Where would you send them to?
Literally just go to socialmediaexaminer.com, and on the top you'll see the icon or the logo for the conference. I believe socialmediaworld18.com will also get you there.
Awesome.
But it's not hard if you go to socialmediaexaminer.com, and I'll give you the specific link to our agenda and the site afterwards. I just don't like spelling out all the hashes.
That just go to the resources on the show notes page for sure. And then Phil, we were talking a little bit before the show started too about like how you guys do a ton of research and put together these reports on all this data about social media, and I think a lot of people are really interested to know what like the big trends are. And you had a report that you were kind of mentioning. Can you talk a little bit about what that report is and kind of where people can go to grab it?
Absolutely. So for 9 years, we've been doing an annual industry report that reports what's going on in the social media marketing industry in the eyes of social media marketers. So I think this year we interviewed or surveyed 5,700 marketers, and we compiled a 50-page report with the results of that. And again, just go to socialmediaexaminer.com, and right at the top, you'll see a large display there and say, here's sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get a copy of that industry report. If you're already signed up for us, sign up again, or it's okay. We don't care. We want you to get that information, but that's the only way to get it right now is by doing that, and then you'll get an email with a link for the report, and it's the 27 report that just came out, I believe, late last month or I guess it was early June, late May.
Awesome. Amazing. And I definitely want to give my like personal endorsement of basically all the content that Social Media Examiner puts out, their blog, their podcast, their live shows. I mean, everything that these guys are doing. I head up the marketing strategy at Endless, so I'm very much in depth in, what's the coolest, newest things in social media. And I literally subscribe to them, and I just take all their articles and just send them to my social media person and my landing page person and everybody on my team. So definitely, if you if you need to know what's going on in social media, you have to subscribe to Social Media Examiner. Even if maybe you're just planning the events and you just want to know about the overall trends. I mean, you just have to look at the headlines to see what tools are really the most popular stuff these days. So that was how we ironically found out about Blab, and which eventually started this podcast as well. So just fun facts about staying on top of trends. Awesome. Well, amazing resources, like absolutely amazing stories and amazing tips from Phil. It's just been so awesome to have you on the show, Phil, and hear more about what went into putting on this legendary event. And if you guys haven't, go attend the event, experience it in person. And I have to give a really, really big thank you to Phil for being on the show today.
Hey, it's been my pleasure to be here. I'm glad to connect with folks. If you want to come find me, Twitter's probably the best. Phil_Mershon is my Twitter handle. You can find me on LinkedIn too. I'll respond to you in either place.
Awesome.
And then if we want to take the conversation further, we can hop on a call or go to email or whatever.
I love it. I love it. And I love how accessible you are too, that you're willing to talk to people about it. And I mean, that's just a good sign of a great leader, and always good to have someone who's not, an icon who's willing to help other people out as well. And I think that goes to the culture that you guys have at the event as well.
Well, I'm not an icon. Thanks for calling me one. I'm learning just like everybody else. There's constantly things going on that we want to do to get better at what we do. I never rest assured that it's going to be a great event next year, even though last year people said it was, because there's always new things to conquer and things that can go wrong, and people are people and events are events. So we can all keep learning from each other.
I love it. Yeah, events are definitely events. Well, thank you again, Phil. We're so excited to have you on the show, and thank you again for being on.
Absolutely. Hope to see some of you at our conference or at other events.
Awesome. Well, we're going to catch you guys all next week on #EventIcons. We have another amazing guest lined up just like Phil, so be sure to tune in next week, and we'll catch you guys at the next episode.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the Twitter conversation sponsored by Alex Plaxton and Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.